Hi everyone, Max Gullickson here with Sawbridge Community Television in our studio right here on 41 Elm Street. And today I have as my guest Dr. John Day. Hi Dr. Day, how are we doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks for coming on my show.
I'm happy to be here.
Now Dr. Day, John, you have an exhibition right now over at our Jacob Edwards Library, a group of stark black and white photos that are taken in Belfast, Ireland in 1972.
That's absolutely right.
Now, you're a doctor?
So I retired about 2 years ago. I was a pulmonary critical care doctor.
For a while?
For 35 years.
Prior to 35 years ago, you were an undergrad English major, and you were in Belfast, Ireland, and you were there with a Leica camera and a friend, and you were amassing this collection of photos that are right now on display in the library. Now, Doc, how did you get to Ireland as a young undergrad to be taking these photos?
After my freshman year in college, I dropped out for a year to work as a reporter for the Philadelphia Bulletin. And the idea was I was going to be a reporter for my life's work. And my editor kept promoting me, and then he said, I'm not going to promote you anymore unless you go back to college. So I went back to college and then joined the college paper, and happened junior year to take a photography course where I learned about all kinds of wonderful documentary photographers. And we got press passes from the Philadelphia Bulletin where I had connections. I was originally assigned a piece which was a Marxist analysis of the Troubles. When we got there, it quickly became clear that it was such a confusing, complicated situation that writing a Marxist analysis, particularly for somebody who did not know a lot of Marx, was going to be impossible. So I ended up taking a lot more pictures than I anticipated. I did a bunch of hard news stories for the Philadelphia Bulletin about various things, but I never actually ended up writing the Marxist analysis of the Troubles, which was my whole raison d'etre for being there. The previous year developed a really substantial interest in documentary photography. It was actually very easy to take photographs in Belfast because it was cloudy and it rained a lot, and I was using Tri-X film, which had an ASA of 400, and basically I could set my camera with a shutter speed of 1/125th and an aperture of 5.6, and I could basically go and shoot the whole day, and I didn't have to worry about exposure.
We got a few photos here that are on your display, Doc, and I'd like you to take me through a few of them.
Sure.
First, we've got a group of young men that are standing in front of a wall. What is going on in this picture, and what are these guys doing?
So that's on the corner of Old Park Road and Ardely Street, which was in the Bowen section of the Ardoyne, which is a Catholic section. And these are guys in the prime of their working life, in the middle of the work week. We're just hanging out, and one of the reasons why they were hanging out was that they were out of work and on the dole. Catholics in Belfast at that time had an unemployment rate of somewhere between 17% and 20%. These guys had no jobs.
The next photo you have is looks like a funeral procession.
Yes.
Going through what looks like a field.
Right.
What's that about?
So that was a 18 or 19-year-old IRA volunteer named Seamus Cassidy, who was shot several days earlier by the British Army as he was sitting in his car. It wasn't really clear exactly what he was up to. He was shot by a British Army sniper, and it is a funeral procession that's making its way through Milltown Cemetery, which is where all the Irish Republican Army volunteers in the Belfast area were buried. It subsequently became famous because it was the cemetery where Bobby Sands was buried, and there was an attack by a Protestant loyalist a number of years later where he threw a bomb into the middle of a funeral for 3 IRA members.
The next photo, you have a couple of young lasses holding hands. It seems pretty innocent, Doc, but there's more to the picture.
So these are 2 young girls in Andersonstown. It was about 11 o'clock at night. The sun didn't go down in Belfast till about 11:30 or so. And the girl on the left has a sort of a makeshift bandage on her hand, And a couple days earlier, she had been hit by a rubber bullet shot by the British Army, and her hand had deep contusions and cuts on it.
The next photo you have, it looks like a bonfire. What is that?
So the bonfire is happening on the 11th of July, which was the night before the 12th of July, which was the big Protestant celebration of the Battle of the Boyne, which in 1690 was when William of Orange beat back the Catholic Irish, and after that time, Northern Ireland was Protestant. So every single July, there'd be parades all over town. It was sort of a in-your-face. The Protestants were the people on top, and they would march into the Catholic neighborhoods to taunt them, and there was an incredible amount of enmity between them. So the Protestants got all the good jobs in Belfast, and actually that was one of the things that attracted me to the place. There was a civil rights situation. The Catholics did not have voting rights to any degree compared to Protestants. And there was incredible discrimination in employment, housing. The Protestants would say the Catholics they drank too much, they had too many babies, they were dirty, they couldn't hold a job. And it was really an eye-opening experience for me to see people that I really could not tell the difference between. And yet this whole group of people was tremendously downtrodden and basically getting screwed.
You've got a photo here of 3 firemen rushing to put out a fire. What's going on in this photo, Doctor?
So that was 21st of July in Belfast. I was about maybe 3 blocks away from a big bomb blast at the Oxford Street bus station. And on that day, but I think it was around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 22 bombs went off over a space of about 80 minutes in Belfast. And at the bus station, 6 people were killed, and maybe about 15 or 20 other people were injured.
The next photo we have is a shoe kind of ominously on the road here. What is the story behind this shoe?
So that's actually in the parking lot where all the buses were parked. And that's a shoe that belonged to one of the bus workers who was blown up, basically. I ran from about 3 blocks away to the bus station, and there were basically body parts. It was just a horrible, horrible scene of carnage. And I hesitated for a few moments to take pictures, and I thought, well, my job is not to be the editor, my job is to be the documentarian. And so I took pictures. Obviously, in this exhibit, it didn't make sense to include them. I mean, they're just too horrible to include into a public exhibit.
The next photo you have, and I'm noticing this about a lot of your photos, Doctor, the picture seems innocent. You've got a young man leaning on a staff, and he looks like he doesn't have a care in the world. But there's more to this picture. There's more going on here. What else is going on in this picture?
Well, so in the distance, you can see several burning cars, and that's an old soccer hurley field. And it basically became a old car dump, and what the kids used to do was to set fire to these cars and play in the cars, and it was sort of a thing for them to do. In lieu of any athletic teams or the goals had all fallen down, and it was sort of a mess. And these kids were just hanging out there. You can't see it in the picture, but it was just beneath a British Army lookout post. So there's some barbed wire right next to the boy. And if you were able to follow the barbed wire, it would lead to the lookout post. I remember this photograph very well because that evening I went with a couple of people I was staying with to the Catholic Ex-Servicemen's Club, which was a replacement for the bars that had been bombed out, and it was basically a drinking club. And I'd had a few beers with my friends, and I went to the bathroom, and within about a minute of being in the bathroom at the urinal, I had 2 guys aged about 19 who looked pretty nasty standing on either side of me, and they essentially told me that if they ever saw me up on the hill again, my kneecaps would be in serious jeopardy.
And then you knew it was real.
So I was like, this is not my, yes, sir, whatever you say.
You bet. I would think so. So, Doc, this was in 1972 in the summer there in Belfast, and you were an undergrad, and you were an English major.
Yep.
And then you left there. You probably grew up a little bit, and some of the things you saw there inspired you to go to med school, and you finished, and you became a doctor, and you did that for a career.
Right.
But the whole time, I mean, did you harbor ideas of one day going back to revisit this? And the exhibit we have over here at the library, was that ever a thought during your medical career? Or?
When I got back to school, I did have a couple of prints, and over the years, I got them framed, and I would put them up in my office, and sometimes late at night, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, I'd be sitting in my office making calls to patients, and I'd look at these pictures and I'd think, geez, it'd be really nice if I could one day print these up. And I would dream about having a dark room, and then digitalization came in, digital photography. I didn't know anything about it. And so basically, since I retired 2 years ago, I've taught myself digital photography. I've learned the Apple photo system. But basically, I believe in not editing photographs, using things like Photoshop. So the only things I've done are to fix scratches in the negatives and to get rid of spots. So I got the negatives scanned and then basically worked on them for the past year, and then got them printed up.
Preparing for this exhibit.
Preparing for this exhibit.
Is this your first one, Doc?
First exhibit.
Pretty
Yes.
exciting, huh?
Yeah, it is exciting.
How did you, I mean, we do a number of them there. Margaret and the staff over there do a fine job.
Yep.
How did you find them? How did you end up in Stockbridge with your first exhibit?
Well, so it's sort of an odd story. I'm a cyclist, and I was on an early morning ride, and one of the people I was riding with has a daughter who worked for the Woodstock Villager. So she put me in touch with her. The Olivia Richmond called me up and said, would I mind being interviewed? And I had a nice interview with her and gave her a bunch of the photographs, and they did a story. And Margaret saw the story, called me up and said, how would you like to have a show?
Ever vigilant, she
So,
is.
yes.
That's wonderful, and you took the opportunity.
So it was a great opportunity to actually get all this stuff together. Finally, it was sort of the impetus I needed to get the thing.
Now you've got the full exhibit over there. You're starting tonight, and
Yep.
you are going to be here in the Jacob Edwards Library
Right.
throughout the month of April.
Yep.
Tonight's your reception, which is
Yep.
Thursday, early in the month.
Yep.
But you'll be there. The photos will be there the whole month for anybody that wants to come by and see them.
Yep.
You have any plans for the future, Doc?
Uh,
Any new exhibits down the road, or are you just trying to get through this one?
Well, so I'm sort of trying to figure out, I've kept my license, my medical license, and every once in a while I have guilt about having a skill that I'm not using anymore, because on the other hand, it's really nice to get back into thinking about reporting and thinking about go back to do some writing too.
So you get to be an English major again, a journalist.
Yeah, if I could write again.
Any ideas about maybe going back to Belfast and capturing a few more, or is that something
So-
that's crossed your mind?
So one of the things I think I want to do is to print up all the pictures that I've taken with people in them, and to go back on the streets where I was back in 1972 and try and find the people that I knew and then take pictures of them now. In the process of writing up these captions, I'd go on Google Earth and you would go to Street View and I could actually see what things look like now as opposed to 50 years ago.
So you're on for the whole month of April.
Yep.
John, thanks for coming on the show.
It was
It's great talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
These
and,
are starkly
it was
real
wonderful.
photos. The black and white, it's better than color for this subject.
Yep.
And folks, if you're out there in Southbridge and you're looking for something to do, as per usual, the Jacob Edwards Library has wonderful things to see. And this month, in the month of April, it is Dr. John Day and his photos from when he was an undergrad in Belfast, Ireland, that show many of the struggles and that show in a picture what 1,000 words couldn't do about how things are over there. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again on Southbridge Community Television.